real object, or more or less just the actual person. So when we come back to the image of nursing, this is how the general population perceive nursing. The image that the nursing presents to the general population, or how people think that nursing is. Oh, the screen is back. So nursing image is very important for nursing profession. It is the way the profession appears to others, including the general population. The image of nursing profession impacts to the recruitment of students, the view of the public, funding for nursing education and research, relationship with healthcare administrators, other healthcare professionals, government agencies, and ultimately the profession self-identity. Image is defined as the mental picture representing a real object, or more or less accurate likeliness of a thing or a person. The most important is that image can influence nurses themselves, just like nurses may feel depressed or less effective if others view them negatively. And how nurses view their professional self-image has an impact on professional self-esteem. A nursing image is likely seen to be assistant to physicians and committed to housekeeping duties rather than devoted to caring. That was in the past. Historical development of the nursing image, we see still much credit being given to Florence Nightingale for being the founder of the modern nursing. The image of nursing may also have its roots in the Victorian age, during which she lived. And during the Victorian age, people used to perceive nursing as a woman's work. And men in the nursing profession used to feel so much belittled. So in the period, it started with the period 1, we had the Angel of Mercy. That was in 1845 to 1919. In the early 90s, nurses were viewed as honorable, moral, spiritual, self-sacrificing, and ritualistic. People believed that they were angels of mercy in a way that they were people who were just sent to provide services from God, and they used to provide services because of mercy that they had to the suffering. And this was seen in World War I, where nurses were helping the people who were injured during the wars, providing nursing services, caring for the wounds, and so on and so forth. Then period 2, we saw nursing being seen as a Girl Friday. A Girl Friday basically just means a female assistant in an office who is supposed to do the few small works. So in around 1921, there was an outbreak of influenza epidemic that created the vast need for care and for nursing services. And we saw so many people, so many women came up to provide care to those people who had influenza. As a result of that, people diverted their efforts towards increasing regulation of nursing education, and they started developing a way that people could be taught so that they could behave more or less like a professional. And also during this period, nursing students were being exploited as cheap labor, literally staffing the entire hospital, and we also saw nurses being described as faithful, dependent, cooperative, long-suffering, and subservient people. Then the third period, we saw the heroine. That was between 1930 and 1945. So at this era, nursing was acknowledged as a worthy and important profession, that enabled women to earn a honorable living. Nurses were identified as educated, courageous, fearless, reasonable, and clear-headed and humanitarian people who could provide solace to those who are suffering, those who are unwell. Then we had the fourth period where we saw nursing being described as the mother. That was between 1946 and 1965. So just like a mother takes care of her child, nurses were seen taking care of both the elderly and the young. That was after the World War II. And during that time, nurses were chronicled as maternal, compassionate, and assertive, submissive, and domestic people who could provide motherly care both at home and at care homes. Then the fifth period, which was one of the most demoralizing period, between 1966 and 1982, where nurses were perceived as sex objects. The mother image of nurse is child to be sex object during that time. And nurses were increasingly depicted as being sexually promiscuous, self-indulgent, and unreliable people. Nurses became sexual mascots for healthcare team and were seen like sexual people with bad morale. They were seen like being the wives and the sexual partners to the other people in the medical field, and that made nursing to be really devalued, and they had really little input in the medical field. And the last period, that is the sixth period, that is the careistic period between 1983 to the present day. So during this era, that is from mid-1980s, nurses were viewed as very intelligent people, sorry for that. During this time, men and women were seen to be very dedicated to providing the highest standard of health care of the sick. And during that time, we also saw collaborative practices in taking care of the sick. You can move to the next slide. So also we've been able to see a period that is coming, the seventh period, that people are trying to talk about an evidence-based period where nurses are being seen as people who are doing things based on scientific rationale, based on evidence and research that has been done all through. So the nursing image itself has been improved over some time. And our greatest advocate, we are just the previous slide, please. The actual image of nursing itself. Yes. So our greatest advocate is the client. And as we reach out to care for them heart to heart, they will reach out to work with us hand in hand. Individuals' attitude, feelings, perceptions are reflected in one's appearance, behavior, and outcomes of interactions with others, including clients, peers, and the public. Collectively, these individual nurses' attitudes, behavior, and interactions constitute to the nursing self-image. Nurses who verbalize comments such as "I'm only a staff nurse" or "I was just following the physician's order" are not improving the image of nursing. So it is the challenge for each nurse to extend the best image possible and offer the uttermost substantiating value of that service. In many times, we've seen clinical nurses saying that I'm giving this medication because it's a physician order. They don't have the rationale behind why this medication is being given, why is it given on 2 or 3 times a day, and why are we giving this dosage. So this one makes nursing to look like people who are not well educated or well oriented to the service that they are doing. So the other one of the key role of nursing what workplaces, being an advocate means they need to respond to clients' needs, verbalize the client's needs so that the client can get the best care as they are in the hospital. Hello? Somebody saying something. It's okay. So at some point, we saw that.
Just go on, Duncan.
Thank you. At some point, we saw that some individuals that joined nursing thought of changing the name of nursing to a different thing. And they still settled for nursing, which they say that nursing was derived from Latin word, which means which was nutricus, meaning that it is something that nourishes, fosters, and protects. They believe that nursing not only symbolizes women's struggle for equity, but that the profession itself represents the typical figure of the underdog in its struggle to heard, approved, recognized, and appreciated. The title nurse is presently all-inclusive and incorporates many positions, which is not limited to registered nurse, vocational nurse, nurse assistant, nurse practitioner, and others. Then we saw that at some point, nursing was regarded as a woman position, as a woman profession. No men were allowed, or very few men were motivated to join the nursing profession. And we also see that literature indicates that nursing profession will benefit from a larger influx of men into the profession. But if a man decides to enter the profession, he is plagued by social stereotypes. Male nurses are often considered social misfits, unable to fit into a real man's job. So this barrier for men seeking to enter nursing, and for those already working as a nurse, are the public perception of nursing profession, where we see the social values, professional organization, nursing culture, and patient preferences. And one of the major obstacles dissuading men from choosing nursing as a career is its traditional female image. And men who choose a traditional female-oriented career are perceived as socially demoted. Our understanding of the image of nursing has been mainly based on the perspectives, such as the public or media, rather than nurses themselves. And you'll find that there are some people or some institutions that prefer that maybe a given gender can provide a given service, or maybe the outcomes of services are based on a given gender. This has also made it difficult for men to be in the profession. Though with the current practice, we've seen many men joining the profession and also making the nursing profession to grow, and the general image of nursing to be seen as a very good image. You can move to the next slide. This could be the last subtopic, that is the strategies for improving the image of nursing. And one of the key strategies is collective bargaining for all nurses. You see that when we find that nurses are divided based on their level of training or based on their level of experience, it will be very hard to portray nursing as a united people. And you've seen in the past where we saw there was a difference between the ECN, the 𝘗𝘰𝘄, and the BSN, which has really made nursing to be very difficult to unite. But when we have a collective bargaining agreement or a collective bargaining point where we say that we are all nurses, we have this and this for our profession. Then the other strategy is to eliminate internal sexism, where we don't prefer that a given gender should be the only gender that is preferred in nursing, or when giving positions to people, we say that for one to be in charge of the hospital, he or she, the person must be a she. And people believe that women are very good in managerial in nursing than men. So when we have that internal sexism, it will make it difficult to improve on the image of nursing. The other strategy is education, where nurses are encouraged to explore so much so that they can be able to attain greater levels of learning. So, for example, if a nurse entered at certificate level, the nurse should be encouraged to get a diploma, degree, and so on and so forth, so that the nurse can be able to appreciate the different. The nurse can be able to appreciate the different levels of learning, and also appreciate the different levels of care that comes with advanced learning. Then the other thing is all about having pride in the profession, where somebody does not fear to say that I am a nurse or I am who. When somebody is asked to talk about him or herself, he confidently says that I am a nurse. And for example, when asked in a social setting, what job do you do? Somebody may respond like, just I'm a nurse. Or maybe that person might be ashamed to say that he or she is a nurse. So for us to have the image of nursing improving, we need to be so much proud. Hold your head high and reply with confidence like, I'm a nurse working at this and this hospital, maybe in a pediatric unit, and also add relevant specialty. For example, I'm specialized in critical care, and this may be a good opening for further conversation. So when you're questioned about nursing or any other aspect of your work, answer factually and use the opportunity to convey information about the profession. People are always concerned about their health, and you might find that they may ask you for advice in any setting. The other thing is to maintain professional image. Look and act like a professional person in every situation. Make yourself to appear professionally, and this starts with good grooming. Walk, wear appropriately for a professional person. Keep the dress code of the institution where you are working. And introduce yourself to your patient and explain to them who you are, why you are there, and what you are going to do. Explain the procedure and medications and the reason for them not only reassures the patient, but also shows that you are knowledgeable and confident in what you are doing. And all nursing actions in front of a patient and their relatives must center on the patient. The rules we learn as student nurses are like not chatting about our last night's date, last meal, or making anything that may interfere with the patient. The other thing is becoming a community leader, where given education, background, exposure to community issues, nurses can serve effectively on various platforms and become leaders in their communities. Participation by nurses at this level shows that they are concerned and knowledgeable citizens, and enhances the public image of nursing. Participating in community activities also contribute to your own professional development. The other strategy is speaking up for your patient, and also for yourself. You find that at times a physician has seen a patient, and you feel that the patient has been on medication for some time and there's no improvement, but you fear being the patient's advocate by saying that you maybe recommend that you can do some investigations to ensure that the patient is well evaluated before the medications are established. So when you become an advocate for yourself, you'll be able to know that when a patient presents with the following symptoms, these are the investigations that has to be done. And when they are not being done, when a patient is given a medication, we will not be able to get good results. So you advocate for the patient and also advocate for yourself. Many times I've been so much disappointed with nurses when they attend meetings of maybe a collaborative meeting that has a combined team of people from both the managerial and the planners, where you find that other people will request for better things, but you find that nurses will request for very basic things that don't develop them so much. And that's why you see that at times you find that nurses become demotivated because of maybe slightly lower pay, because at the bargaining table you find that they'll fear to advocate for what they want and what they need. And nurses also need to make a difference wherever they go. And contribution to future of your profession, that is what you as a nurse do or say, does make a difference. You need to be proud to be a nurse. Always look and act professionally. Help to inform the public about nursing, and example within your community. So as a nurse, you need to be very proud, and you need to keep on telling other people that this is what has to be done. This is the way that we need to go to ensure that we don't have infections growing. The other thing is always be cheerful, friendly, and compassionate while attending to the patients and their relatives. You need not to shout, scold, or correct junior colleagues or students in the presence of your patients or their relatives. Join doctors' ward round and make contribution on patients management. We should always be having the nursing rounds also being done concurrently. When you are in the ward, when your ward is calm and less busy, take your time to give your patients health education on their conditions. And you also need not to be pressing or playing with your phone while attending to your patients or relatives. It makes them have a very bad attitude or notion about you. Patient health education before she leaves. And during night shift, do check at your patient sparingly. Do your procedures passionately, bearing with scientific principles. Always remember to take informed consent before commencing a procedure to the patient. And finally, use official social media link for official staff so that they can reach the intended audience. That marks the end of my presentation, unless somebody has something to add on it.
Thank you very much, Duncan. for that wonderful presentation. For those who joined later, Duncan is a critical care nurse with the Masters and BSc in Kabianga University. He did critical care in Masinde Mulira. He's currently working in Busia County and also part-time lecturer in PCA Medical Training College in Nakuru. I just wanted to tell you that within us, we have a director nursing, 𝘈𝘂𝘕𝘂𝘕. We have a nursing council representatives within us, registrar for nursing council. We also have association, NNK members, and also midwifery association of nurses. Duncan has image of nursing, and he has mentioned a lot. One, that I think in 1929, that nurses were being considered as sex objects. I don't know whether that is the reason why about nurses when it comes to sexual matters, but it is us now to change that notion so that we be the nurses that can portray good image. He has also mentioned that you can use your social media links, the official ones like LinkedIn, where you can make your page well for people to view what you do and the services that you offer. Specifically on Twitter and LinkedIn. I think for those who joined, Duncan has mentioned a lot. We will also share with you after this session in the audio. Now we have our second presenter, Eugene Ayub. Eugene Ayub is an advocate with the experience of health law, legal compliance, corporate and commercial law. He's the legal officer in the Nursing Council of Kenya, career emphasis in data and intellectual property. He's a graduate of Nairobi University or University of Nairobi, and postgraduate diploma in law from Kenya School of Law. Duncan, Eugene, if you're around, you're welcome.
Leonard, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So I'd request Bridget to share my presentation, and thank you for the kind introduction.
You are in, Duncan?
Yes, I trust you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Right. Thank you very much. So yes, so my presentation will be mostly focused on the legal aspects. It's fun how various disciplines can intertwine to address various issues. So under this topic, I'll be addressing understanding, advocating, and advocating your nursing license. So if you could go to the next page, which now gives a breakdown of my presentation. All right, so the outline, of course, I'll start with the introduction, Then I'll speak a little about the Nursing Council of Kenya and its function. Then I'll highlight the key definitions under the Act. Then after that, I'll speak a little about nursing and midwifery licensure in Kenya. Then I'll speak about the disciplinary powers of the council and finalize with the role of the courts when it comes to the nursing profession. So we can go to the next. Under the introduction. So as a matter of introduction, it's just to tell the attendees about what is the definition of a license, which is now sorry. Sorry, I think
mute, please, mute.
Yes. Please, if you've joined, kindly mute. All right. All right, thank you. So, under licensing, it means what you are granted by now the regulator so that you can have that ability to be able to practice. So in simple term, we can say that license is what gives you the livelihood. So it is very paramount for you to be able to guide it and make sure that you protect it as required. So if I can just give the introduction about the Nursing Council of Kenya, it's now the regulator. It is established under the Nurses and Midwives Act, Cap 257, laws of Kenya. So this is the act that governs the nursing and midwifery profession in Kenya. So under the mandate of the Nursing Council of Kenya is mostly to regulate both free practice and education, mostly so that they can instill public confidence and safety. So the council also has the role under this mandate. It has the role to register, enroll, and license nurses and midwives in Kenya. So by doing so, it keeps the and maintains the register, the roles and records of licenses of nurses and midwives. So I'll quickly also just go through the next. Bridget, if you could hear me, kindly go to the next page. Thank you. So the functions of the council has been provided under Section 9 of the Act, which I'll quickly just go through them. One is to establish and improve the standards of the professional nursing and of healthcare. Number two is to make provision for the training and instruction of nurses. Three is to prescribe and regulate syllabuses for instruction and courses of training. Four, to approve institution for training of nurses. Three is to prescribe and conduct examination, which is very crucial. We are going to see when it comes to the licensure. Next page, please. In continuation, it's also to prescribe badges, insignia, and uniforms for nurses and midwives. Also to have regard to the conduct of nurses, conduct of person registered, enrolled, or licensed under the Nurses Act. This we are going to speak further when we talk about the disciplinary powers of the council. We're also going to have regard to the standards of nursing care, qualified staff, nursing commodities, facilities, conditions, and environment of health institutions. It also has the function to take such disciplinary measures as may be necessary to maintain a proper standard of conduct and nursing care. We shall speak more on this when we just cover what happens when an inquiry is conducted by the council. So it's also to direct and supervise the compilation and maintenance of registers, rolls, and records required to be kept under the Nurses Act. Also the function is to advise the Cabinet Secretary on matters concerning all aspects of nursing, and also to ensure that the provision of quality nurses training and maintenance of professional nursing practice through research and appropriate regulation. So in a nutshell of the functions, it basically plays a both supervisory role and also an enforcement role. So if you could go to the next page. Sorry, I've seen a comment that I'm too fast. I'll try regulate. So this aspect is just on the key definitions under the Act. So first definition under the Act is who's a nurse. So the Nurses and Midwives Act, which now I'll be hereinafter being I'll refer to as the Act, is the definition is of a nurse is a person who has been who's authorized by licensure to practice as an enrolled or registered nurse. So for this, there's two aspects. First, the nurse has to be enrolled, registered, and also the nurse has to be licensed, of which we are going to see under the topic of nursing and midwifery licensure in Kenya. So the definition of a registered nurse is a person now whose name has been entered into that register that is now kept by the registrar, the registrar of the council, who also is the CEO of the council. The Act also gives the definition of a midwife, and it defines a midwife to be a person who has successfully completed midwifery education program based on the essential competencies for basic midwifery practice according to global standards of midwifery education and is recognized and licensed in the country of origin. So for the main topic that you're going to also discuss further is on the license, which has been defined under the Act as this is the license to practice nursing or midwifery granted under the Act. Also, the Act also recognizes that there are specialists when it comes to nursing and midwifery profession, which now it's defined that such a person is a person who has been registered under this Act as a nurse practitioner. That's number one. Then that person has gone further to advance the practice of the nurse or the registered midwife, who has acquired expert knowledge, base, complex decision making, and clinical competence for expanded practice, and who has master's degree or above from a recognized university in any of the following disciplines now, which include matters oncology, etc., anesthesia. So the same have been recognized under the Act, and it's also the purpose of NCK to make sure that they get to regulate both now that nurse, that midwife, and that specialist. Please go to the next page. So when we speak about the nursing and midwifery licensure in Kenya, so this same Act under Section 13 now provides the person who are entitled to be registered. Not any person can be registered and licensed as a nurse. Of course, there is the reason as to why the nurses have the license, which we are trying to protect here, because you have worked hard enough to ensure that you meet the minimum criteria as prescribed by the council. So under this Act, it means that one, you should have undergone a prescribed course of instruction and you've passed the appropriate examination conducted or prescribed by the council. So this has two aspects. First, the prescribed course that you have to undertake and complete. Thereafter, you come, you get index, you sit for the exam, and you get to be registered by the council. Thereafter, it also looks at the good character. Good character is also an aspect that is considered when it comes to the registration of a nurse, because there's the aspect of still maintaining that reputation of a profession. When you talk about profession, the main characteristic includes maintaining the reputation. That's why the first speaker went at great length to address the issue of how to protect that image of nursing. So you also have to pay the prescribed registration fee so that you can be enrolled, you can be registered or enrolled as a nurse in Kenya. So what's the outcome? The first thing, of course, you get the registration certificate, which now shows that you've been registered as a nurse or a midwife in Kenya. Therefore, you go the next step and you apply for the license, which is now the retention license. Or if you meet the criteria of doing private practice, you can be granted the private practice as it has been provided under the Act. Thank you. Go to the next page. So this next aspect now deals strictly mostly on disciplinary powers of the council, of which I'll take some bit of time here, because now I just want to guide nurses on when there's a professional misconduct, how, and the same has been drawn to the attention of the Nursing Council of Kenya, what happens. This goes hand in hand when it comes to looking into how, what are the decisions that the council can do, because some of the decisions may include suspension, some of the decisions may include revocation of a license. So I'm just quickly going to go through the same, and so that I can enlighten the members what is considered to be professional misconduct and can lead to a revocation of your license. And under this, the main topic, of course, it's about protecting your nurses. So the first step, you should know if you're protecting your license, what do you need to do, or what do you need to not do so that you don't get your license revoked. So I'll begin with just stipulating that now the disciplinary powers of the council has been provided under section 18A, 1 from A to M, which now requires that nurses or midwives shall be held accountable for any misconduct, and the same as I mentioned, when it's drawn to the attention of the council, it can come in various ways. They can be a complainant who now do a complaint, report that complaint to the Nursing Council of Kenya. For instance, if someone has received care but they think that they was negligent in receiving such care, they'll write to the council, give an account of their events, say that I went to hospital so and so, but for some reason there was negligence in that the nurses who attended to me probably neglected me, did not give me the cares deserved, or they worked beyond their scope, or they did not meet the standards as has been specified under the guidelines of the council. So that's one way. The other way, it can be, I know most of you have noted that media can go and reveal various stories by covering reports that show probably negligence, or they can show professional misconduct at the workplace. So when the council gets such information from the mainstream media, it can, out of its own motion, proceed and initiate an inquiry so that it can further look into the happening of now what really happened. Also, the council, as I've mentioned, on its own motion, it doesn't have to be in the media out there. It doesn't have to be something that has been reported. Probably when we do conduct our compliance audits, we get to unearth that there is some gap in a certain hospital, or we get to unearth that some nurse, they are quack nurses, we get to unearth there are persons who are acting, but they are not delivering care as it is required of them under the guidelines. We can call onto them and tell them, invite them for an inquiry before the council, whereby they'll be given that they are due right for fair hearing. The due process will also be according to them, so that we can get to hear the account of the story before the council proceeds to make a decision. So the procedure of now the inquiry into the offences of professional misconduct is conducted in accordance to section 18(b) from 1(6) of the Act. The Act, of course, I do still refer to the Nurses and Midwives Act. And now the schedule now gives further guideline on how, once you are called to the Nursing Council of Kenya and an inquiry is being conducted upon yourself, probably for professional misconduct, how do you go about it? And now, upon the conduct of the inquiry, that's when the council now will proceed and make a decision, as it has been prescribed under section 18(b) 3 of the Act. So I'll quickly just highlight what are the types of professional misconducts. I'm sure most of the nurses, you would ask yourself, what is that action that I'll do that will maybe construed as a professional misconduct and make me get invited for an inquiry before the Nursing Council of Kenya? One, if you as a nurse, you're allowed any other person to practice in your name as a registered nurse. This is in the case where you do have your registration certificate, you do have your license, you've gone further and you have your private practice license, but now you are using an unqualified person, some other person, to use your documents so that they can practice either nursing or midwifery, and that person is not qualified, is not registered, is not licensed as provided by the Nursing Council of Kenya. That will amount to a professional misconduct. Number two, you enter into a partnership with an unregistered person. You do want to begin a medical, start a medical facility. You, of course, you have been registered, you do have your license, but the person that you enter into that relationship, that partnership relationship, so that you can carry a business to make a profit, is not a nurse. That can amount to professional misconduct. C, you are in the business of soliciting clients. As I mentioned, this is a profession, and it's all about maintaining the reputation of such profession. So if you're in the business of soliciting clients, advertising in a manner that contravenes the guidelines that has been prescribed by the council, that will amount to professional misconduct. Also, if you're in breach of client's confidentiality and right to privacy, that can amount to professional misconduct. I'm sure all of you are aware that right now we do have the Data Protection Act that is on its phase of implementation. We do have the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, which is very strict when it comes to implementing. So nowadays we do say that data is a product, and once a client comes to you, gives you personal information, they do have rights. They do have rights, them as data subjects, that you as a nurse, you have to protect. You cannot just go and breach that confidentiality or that right of privacy by revealing their information unless as provided under the Act. This is by getting consent or by operation of the law. But if it's not about the exception, you as a nurse must guide that information that you get from the client. And if you breach the same, it can amount to professional misconduct. Also, if you fail to observe and apply professional, technical, ethical, or other standards prescribed by the council, as guidelines for practice by registered nurses. So as council, this is the section that also mandates us to give guidelines on how nurses should act professionally and also ethically. So we do have the scope of practice, and the scope of practice for different cadres, different specialty. The same has been published. Nurses, during even the indexing, during the training, nurses should have these documents. Also, the nurse should have the code of ethics and conduct, and also the standards of practice and education. It's very paramount that each and every nurse gets to know what are the contents, what of the scope of practice, what is within the scope, code of ethics and conduct. How do I conduct myself in the nursing and midwifery profession? And if I contravene the same, will that amount to professional misconduct? So it speaks further on now these actions of professional misconduct, and also what are the standards required of me in the nursing practice and education. Please go to the next slide. So the next slide still talks about what constitutes the professional misconduct. Also, there's gross negligence in the conduct of the professional duties. So when you talk about negligence, negligence is all about that one, you do owe a duty of care to the client, and if you owe that duty of care, if you're in breach of that duty, it means that you have to be accountable for that breach. So gross negligence amounts to professional misconducts. G, also separation of client's fund. So for this is the people who are in the private practice, you are required to have the office account which is separate from the client's account, so that it can prevent you from misappropriating the client's fund. If you are found misappropriating the client's fund, that can amount to professional misconduct, and you can be called to the council for inquiry. Also, if you're convicted of a crime under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, this can amount to professional misconduct, because for the reason that one, it's of course it's in breach of the it affects the reputation of the profession, and also it's a crime by itself, so it can amount to professional misconduct. Also, the failure to declare conflict of interest when need arise, it can amount to professional misconduct. So after the council has called you, and it will inform you of what are you being charged with. So it is going to highlight which of these professional misconducts are you being charged with, and you'll now be given the chance to give your testimony. If there are witnesses, if there are other people that need to be called before the council has the power to summon them so that they can come. Also, they give a proper account of now the incident, and now the council will now proceed. After getting all the testimony, they'll proceed to make a decision. So what's the decision that the council can make in such a scenario? One, the council can decide that no further action can be taken against you, probably since they've assessed all the facts and seen that you don't have any case to answer, so they can say that there's no further action that shall be taken against you. Also, the council can reprimand you, but reprimanding is like giving you a last warning that in the event you are called, you are caught in that professional misconduct again, it can amount to now a more sentence, which is can fall under the below. Also, you can now be given a fine. Now the jurisdiction has been capped to less than Kenyan shillings 5 million. Also, the council can order you to undertake training, relevant training, and also just get to produce the same as evidence that you've conducted the training. Of course, the training will be under your cost. If they've noted that during that inquiry, they've noted gaps, probably to do with your competencies, they can insist that you go and undertake the training. Also, the council has the power to order specific performance of obligation under contractual arrangements. You can enter into a contract with the council, and they ensure that you get to perform certain obligations which you had failed to perform at an earlier stage. Also, the council now, for these last two are the grave penalties that the council can give. One, they can suspend your license for duration, for a duration of time, which is not more than 2 years. The council can also, if they've noted that this case has merit and is of grave concern, they can order that you get to be deregistered from the role of council. Go to the next page. Thank you. So this shall be the last topic. So it's on the role of courts. So we are going to, it provides what is the role of courts when it comes to the nursing profession. One, when it comes to criminal, the courts also get to hear cases involving offences provided under the respective acts of parliament, which now includes Nurses and Midwives Act and the Penal Code. So, for instance, under the Nurses and Midwives Act, it has provided for various offences, which now even includes if an unqualified person practices as a nurse, they can be reported to a police station, and the police station will now initiate the criminal process. Once it goes to the court, the office of director of the director of public prosecution will take up the case. They'll have charges, and you shall go through the court process, so that the court can now pass. The court can pass now its determination, and thereafter the sentence. So also, when the people, mostly even in the instance of medical negligence, the Penal Code has provided a section that talks about medical negligence by nurses, which amounts to a crime. The same goes to the way of criminal nature. So also the role of the court, it also gives the avenue for appeals. Now this appeals is closely related to the previous section, whereby decision has been given by the council, but you as a nurse, you're not contented by that decision, and you think that the council was too harsh on you, or you think the decision was not reached at appropriately, probably due with respect to the process or decision making in any step, you can proceed and appeal that decision, but that has been made by the council to the High Court of Kenya. Note that this is within 28 days of the making of that decision. So that's just quickly what are the role of the courts, but the main person who normally deals with nurses when it comes to matters professional misconduct or legal instances is the Nursing Council of Kenya. And that marks the end of my presentation. Thank you. I think, Leonard, it goes back to you. You can advise on the question, the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Council, for that elaborative explanation. We have had a lot. You've mentioned, you have shared various definitions. You have also talked about nursing and midwifery licensure. You've also talked about disciplinary powers, the types of professional misconduct, decisions by the court. Some of the decisions are reprimand, fine of less than 500,000, training, suspension, deregistration, and you have also mentioned the role of the court. Now we have a number of questions in our chat box. The first question is, who regulates hospitals? Another question is, how diverse are NCK? Who sits in those panels? I think you can take those for now. We continue. But again, if you're asking questions, the participants, if you're asking questions, be specific on the topic of today. Let's not focus on the CPD because we are talking about the nursing legal matters only. If you want to ask a question, you can raise up your hand. We'll unmute you, then you speak up. For now, the council can pick up those questions. You can also check on the box.
Yes, thanks, Leonard, for that. I can also have gone through the question, so I'll try to quickly answer them. Who regulates hospitals? So we do have, of course, we all know we do have the 𝘕𝐻, we do have various boards who act in conjunction so that they can get to regulate the various hospitals. So for the side of NCK is mostly just making sure that the standards as it has been stipulated is adhered to at the said hospitals. So we also do have that role of regulating the hospital. So it's a function that is shared amongst the various regulatory boards so that they can ensure that health is placed first. So the next question is, how diverse nursing comes panels? Who sits in them? So with respect to the panels, now we do have the council members of the NCK. Under it has various committees. One of the committees is the discipline standards and ethics committee, which is the DSE. The people who now sit in the, sorry, please mute. So the discipline standards and ethics committee, they do sit in the panels. They can be assisted also by the secretariat. The secretariat may include head of standards and compliance as they conduct the inquiry. Once they have a committee now report to the main council of the findings of now the inquiry, and now the full council will now adopt to that ruling, and the chairperson will get to sign it off and confirm that it's an approved ruling of the board. So I think, I can also see here a question, do you have a register of SHAC nurses? I know there is, because we are the people, we have the mandate of maintaining the register and roll of nurses and midwives in Kenya, and is right now I know the same may not be public, but I can seek the guidance of now the registration and licensing department on how the nurses can further get to obtain such information, and we'll get back to you. I think those are the questions that I could answer for legal. If there's any other question, I'm happy to still answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have another question pending. Do we have laws that protect nurses in case of offense from the patient or relatives?
Sorry, I didn't get. Do we have? Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay. Do we have laws that protect the nurses in case of offense from the patients or relatives?
Or okay, so when it comes to the law is only one, which is the Nurses and Midwives Act. So this I'm speaking from the point of inquiry. So when you are called upon as a nurse, you're not. It's not a mission for It's not a mission for you to get harassed or anything. You do have rights as a nurse when you're called upon during the inquiry. And of course, everyone has a right under natural law and rules of justice that you have a right, one, to be heard and due process to be followed. So also for the reason that you have the right to be heard, you also have the right of legal representation. If you think that you'd require legal representation, the same has been accorded under the Act. You can have yourself, present yourself, or you can have legal representation, which is now an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, to come before the inquiry and represent you, give an account of your case on behalf. So when it comes to the law, the same law that provides for this inquiry is the same law that also acknowledges your rights, and thus it protects you. Also, the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, gives that right for fair administrative action, and also give you the right of legal representation. Also, when you go to the criminal side, of course, when you go to the courts, you need to be informed of your rights as an arrested person. For instance, if a police officer gets to accost you for the reason that you are an unqualified person practicing as a nurse, you do have the rights that are accorded to you. You do have the rights that you're going to be informed about the charges. You are going to be informed on you're going to be informed about remaining silent. You're going to be informed about you reaching out to legal representation to come to your aid. So all that has been accorded under the Act. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
Through
you.
the chair,
Yes.
Mr. I
Yes.
want to expand further on the issue that part of we are talking about the issue of how nursing council regulates the hospitals. So in terms
Yes.
in terms of how nursing council regulates the hospital, nursing council has the mandate of regulating all the hospitals. That is, it constitutes the public and also the private, and also there's what we call the nurses private clinics. So we have that mandate of going to a certain facility and to inspect, and also to inspect on mostly the nurses. Also, on pertaining the nurses private clinic, we also urge the nurses to come and to come and open up their clinics through the Nursing Council of Kenya. Nowadays, the council have that provision for the when a nurse opens a clinic, there's that provision for NHIF. So as a proud nurse, I urge all the nurses to open the private clinics through the Nursing Council of Kenya. We are there to support you, and also the issue to do with the, let's say the opening of the private clinics. As per now, the Nursing Council has the mandate to open a level 2, that is a level 2 clinic. And also we are on the verge of we are doing negotiation on how we can expand further on how the nurses can open nursing homes, and that it will be good for the nurses. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kevin Ngeno. Kevin Ngeno is also nursing NCK team. He has clarified that as nurses, you can also open your clinics through Nursing Council of Kenya up to level 2. He has also clarified that they do come for supervision so that you can get approval to open that clinic. The council has also explained about the same clearly, and we have all gotten that. We have another question about image of nursing for Duncan.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes, okay, so go on.
I've seen the question. it's on the part that was talking about the attitude of nursing. And I mentioned about the top 10 traits of nursing, which included a caring nature, being empathetic, being detailed and oriented, being emotionally stable, being able to adapt to every situation, having a physical endurance, and being a very quick thinker, and having great judgment, and also not forgetting being hardworking and having great communication skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan, for that explanation. Thank you, Rebecca. 𝘈𝘂𝐿𝐼 is asking, are foreign the council seems not to be this because this is happening or without the knowledge. Council, can you help us there? Though basically I know you cannot practice in any country without a license of that country.
Thank you for for that question. So, as you've correctly put it, Leonard, that you cannot practice because it's license that grants you the permission to practice in the country. So, if you have been trained out of Kenya, of course, even I mentioned under Section 13 of the Act, it provides on who's entitled to registration. So it also mentioned about people who have been trained out of Kenya. So if you've been trained out of Kenya and you come back and the council is satisfied that your training and you've met the minimum requirements, you can be indexed for sitting for the examinations as prescribed by the council. Once you get to sit and pass them, you get to be licensed and practice as such in Kenya. So for those nurses who are out there, who are the foreign nurses who have just come but they haven't been licensed in Kenya, they are the unqualified persons as defined under the Act, and they need to be reported and action be taken against them. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. 𝘈𝘂𝐿𝐼 will share the slides and even the recorded audio in your email that you registered with. Lydia Masemo, kindly share the record. We'll look for 𝘗𝑰𝐵𝐰𝐿𝐼, I think these are a nurse and as well a council. The Health Act has rights as, I don't know what is ND, obligations of both the healthcare giver and the patients. 𝘈𝘂𝐿𝐼 again, we have responded to that. I'm checking for other questions. If you have a question, you can raise up your hand. We'll unmute you.
Allow me to respond to a question I'm seeing on the chats.
Okay.
I'll ask the question from, I think it's Levi Dennis. So Levi wants to know the difference between a higher diploma holder in critical care and a master's holder. A higher diploma holder is a specialist, and a master's holder is an advanced nurse practitioner. So in Kenya, we are still struggling to get some legal authorities. In advanced countries like US and the white countries, the advanced nurse practitioner is allowed to prescribe medication, while the clinical nurse is not allowed to prescribe any medication to the patient. So, but in Kenya still we have challenges with the legislation, and I think Nursing Council is just about to give us direction about what a master's holder in nursing can do, what a degree holder and a higher diploma holder can do. Thank you.
Through the chair, Mr. Otieno, I want to clarify on the issue, that Mr. Duncan Orego said. Now, currently there's a scope of nursing for those specialty in nursing that is higher diploma that is postgraduate and the master's level. So there's that distinction between their job responsibilities. So nursing council have developed those scope of practice for each, and I encourage the nurses to have that, to take an initiative to have that booklet. It's just you can just purchase through the nursing council at a very subsidized price. So you can go through them and see the difference between what a higher diploma can do, what a postgraduate can do, and also what a master's nurse at a master's level can do. So basically, we have had some conversation on the various stakeholders on the issues of, let's say, the issue of majorly medication. That is an issue of contentious, of which we will come up we'll solve up that issue. But currently we have those scope of practices that pinpoints the role of a higher diploma, the role of a postgraduate, and the role of a master's, that's nurses on the master's level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I think we can also suggest to the Nursing Council of Kenya that we do the soft copy material so that we can get this scope of practice. Even if it is buying, you can do a soft copy one that you can easily buy online or in the Nursing Council site, instead of getting a hard copy. At times, some people are coming from far, and maybe it may not be easy to reach Nursing Council, or maybe waiting for a certain meeting like conference for them to get those copies. Again, my concern, maybe the Nursing Council team can respond to this. Nursing Council only license nurses up to BSc. How come you have a scope of practice for the nurses doing a master's and PhD, and you only license them up to BSc?
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Otieno. So on the issue of the scope of practices up to the master's level, we do have those scopes, and also as per now, the Nursing Council, let's say that license or the registration, we give up to the higher diploma. But also on the master's level, we do have a special register that is being guided. That is in the registration department. We have a special register for master's level. So those people who have done the master's level, we are currently having a conversation with the CUE, that is the Commission for University Education, on how we can incorporate those the master's level in the NCK register, plus in collaboration with the ACU. But for now, we have the special register. Master's level, they have a special register, and also the postgraduate BSN, that the BSN who have done a higher diploma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had this last question from Wycliffe. We had it even in the last webinar when we were talking about introduction in nursing. He's asking, can a higher diploma holder go ahead and pursue master's degree, or must they go for a degree first? And I think last meeting, Professor Njau and the Director Nursing, the Nairobi Hospital, responded to it, that currently we are still waiting for communication so that we can see whether you can do a master's direct, or you will still go for the degree first. Previously, sometimes back, they said that it used to be there that you can go from higher diploma direct to master's. But as per now, it is still pending. Any other person?
Okay, to respond on that,
I have a question.
Yes, ask your question, then Ngeno will respond.
Yeah, I think I have already written the question in the chat box, but I think it has been overlooked. So I was asking that nurses are being trained on pharmacology, but when you come to the operation of pharmacies, they are not allowed to operate pharmacies under their names or under their registration. Yeah, about the pharmacies, and also in private practice. We know that other cadres, they can be working for government facilities and at the same time they could be running their own private practice. So why is it that the same is not being done by the nurses? Like if I'm working for a government facility, why am I not allowed to also do my own private practice? Thank you.
I think I can take that.
Okay, it's okay.
So the first question on the operating of pharmacies, I think now that goes to the ambit of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board as provided under that respective act on who can own and operate a pharmacy. So that's squarely on another regulatory body. So for us, we can train, but when it comes to the owning and operating of a pharmacy, now that's the ambit of another regulatory body. For the other question on doing both government and private, that I can do confirm that we do have regulations that are just about to be published on private practice. So once the same has been published, it provides this provision on now how a nurse who wants to do both the government and the private practice, how the same can proceed. So the same is, I can do confirm it's at the gazettement stage. The same, once it's gazetted, it will now come into effect, and the regulations now will be able to regulate how one can do both. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, through the chair,
Yes.
I want to clarify something on to do with the how if a higher diploma nurse can go directly to do a master's level. As per now, there's no that provision for direct. There's no that pathway directly from higher diploma to masters. So what is there is that somebody who have done higher diploma in let's say a certain specialty, first of all, for that nurse to go to master's level, he or she must pass through the degree level, so that he or she can reach to that master's level. As per now, there's no that pathway, direct pathway. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are remaining with only 3 minutes. And there is a question here. Can we get a better license? Okay. Maybe I can respond to that. We are going paperless. Let's change with the changes. Instead, if we start talking about having a card, a laminated card, then it will take us back, because we are now going digital. I think, I'm not sure, but I think it's better having it a soft copy than having a card, that physical card. But the council and the NCK team will respond to that. Another question, wrap up, why don't NCK compile these counties? There should be a DNS. Today we are talking about asking legal matters. We may not talk about that. Are you allowed to open and run with your license? The team will respond to that. Why is nothing allowing training of certificate nursing, yet the global market for higher? Are we not going backwards? Members or participants, kindly, if you're asking questions, focus, because we have a specific topic, so don't go out of that topic. We may not pick your question if you go out of the topic. Thank you. The team, you can pick any question from the chat box.
So through the chair, Mr. Otieno, I want to respond on the issue to do with the certificate nursing, that is enrolled nursing. That issue, the issue of enrolled nurses I think it's being done on, I think, like, let's say like six KMTCs. That is the KMTC are found in the marginalized area. And that was an initiative that the enrolled nurse or certificate nurse had been proposed, had already been phased out, but it was I think it was let's say it was I think it was an initiative between the government and the United Nations. So they provide that provision for marginalized area, but it was a program, but currently it will be, very soon it will be phased out. But for now, it's being done in those marginalized KMTCs. Thank you.
We may not go out to the topic, but with your license, council. Yes, Mr. Eugene Ayub.
Yes. Yes. The question I think here I've seen is on with respect to getting a better license card than having to print out and laminate the same. I think that you've answered that you're going digital, and now this license can now be processed online. Of course, they still come with the various security features, which now includes the barcode, in which one can now get to scan that license and confirm that indeed it's valid. I think this other question has been answered by my colleague Kevin, and on the issue of opening or running MCH, family plan clinic, with your license, I think that will also be answered by Kevin. Yes, I think those are the ones that I can answer as of now. The issue of organogram, of course, this with respect to our jurisdiction, we don't have power to coordinate the functions of the county governments. So of course, the best thing we can do as a council is to do recommendations that once if we've gone to a certain county and we've noted this gap, mostly to do with the leadership of that county with respect to nursing, we can do recommendations to that specific county, requiring them to now do that exact organogram as we require of them. So the best you can do there is in terms of recommendation, because you do also understand that a county is also a government by itself and it has its own structures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We may not allow, just to repeat, we may not allow or we may not respond to questions that are outside the topic. Today we are talking about nursing legal matters and protecting the image of nursing. So, Judy, Kamau, we may not respond to your question of the portal issue because it's under communication, not really nursing legal. And for that, I think we are done. If you have any other question, you can send through the email that you received with the link, or you can, if you are in our WhatsApp group, for those people who are not in our WhatsApp group, we have a WhatsApp group for nurses. It's called Let's Talk Nursing. We have over 720 members, very active, and in that